So the basic definition of vulnerability management is kind of a looking at the entire area of an ecosystem where there is a platform, and in ongoing regular process of identifying any kind of vulnerability, you assess the vulnerability, reporting that, managing, remediating cybersecurity based vulnerability across endpoints, workloads, and systems. So if we look at the vulnerability definition per se, that is talking about any sort of a application or a platform when the issue comes in general, and we realize that this issue might be related to the overall ecosystems of platform which is related to a security, then the vulnerability management, which is supposed to be frequently supposed to be handled that. So with that, let's understand the risk first. When we understand the risk, so we'll go baby step. We understand the risk, then we'll go into the vulnerability. So fundamental definition of risk, which we'll be looking at today as a classical definition, or maybe from ITL4 standpoint, a possible event that could cause harm or a loss or make it more difficult to achieve objectives. So what happened is you have defined some objectives, and in that, there is a possibility that you look at that it may not be achievable. And for that, you identify the risks. And this, what is not achievable, means you would have identified that, certain things should happen on time and it did not happen. So that if you are not identify a risk, there is a possibility it become a problem. And that problem is basically what we are talking about here. So we are talking about a possible event which could cause harm or a less loss. And that's where you cannot achieve the objectives. So risk can be also defined as one of the uncertainty of the outcomes. And when we are talking about context of measuring the probability of positive outcomes or as well as negative outcomes. So assuming that you invest some money in the market and you have a risk of losing them, but you get since you have invested some money, get some profit also, right? So when you get the profit, so you more risk, more return, if you heard about this term. Or rather, you try to achieve something timely and you get a benefit of achieving that product in the market faster. So you actually get a market share. So these are some positive outcomes where you have raised the things that's something to be achieved faster as a risk, and you achieve that. Sometime risk can be shared within two vendors, within two organizations, within two teams. Sometimes risk can be transferred to the relevant teams, right? Like network, or which is not within the organization, or a HR team for the recruitment. So, and sometimes risk has to be accepted, right? So you live with the risk, you don't do anything. So when we talk about DevSecOps based security risk management, the fundamental aspect is to understand, ensure compliance of control. Means whatever you have defined, are you really doing it according to that? So you have to ensure of compliance of control. Means, for example, you said that I will give, high level of privileges based on, certain mechanism, certain business rationale. For example, you have to do some changes. So when you have to do some changes in the platform, obviously you need a deployment or that kind of a role. So for example, you need admin role. But how do you provide admin role? You can provide the admin role by raising the request and that person get the role and that person do the work, and again, roles can be revoked. Now, this particular aspect of giving the roles, working on that particular activity based on the role, achieve the activities and close that, and you revoke the role. All this is actually part of a compliance of control. When we talk about informed business risk decisions, means there is a possibility that you have certain risk which you identify, And now this risk may be materializing into the problem. So you have decided that, certain activities to happen on time and it did not happen, and you reach to the level where you have to now communicate this particular thing will not happen, or you will not be able to achieve something on timely. So in that case, you have to really inform business, and they are related to risky decisions.